everybody, this is Pete Saronis, and I am super excited today to lead a discussion with our colleague, Mr. Kevin Hamer, who officially, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin, I don't want to mess this title up, President and CEO of Akiak Technology. Did I say that right?
Absolutely, Pete. It's great.
Yeah. No, we're here to, this is our ACT-IAC, Emerging Technology, IoT Smart Infrastructure Working Group, along with one of our colleagues here on the webcast, Mr. Dan Morgan, who is our executive sponsor. Shout out to Dan, his leadership, in addition to Nancy Delanoche and the wonderful community of ACT-IAC for making this possible, Justin Herman, Don Lovett. This is a loaded subject in the world. Give us some more anecdotes and stuff we need to be aware of so that our audience can go research this and learn about what maybe they're fortunate to have, but also those that don't, and how we can help.
Sure. So my family's tribe is the Akiak Native community in remote Southwest Alaska. That's where I get my passion for this. And of course, that whole area of Southwest Alaska does not have any broadband connectivity. Without that broadband connectivity, that census area, the Bethel census area where our tribe exists, has a 21% COVID positive rate. Our tribe had a 61% COVID positive rate. So as we looked at this and we figured out, all right, they couldn't go home from schools when the schools shut down because of COVID. They couldn't go home and have access to any digital tools, any remote learning, any digital classrooms, things that we in the lower 48 take for granted as a way of at least continuing the education process while the schools were physically closed due to COVID. So our students at Akiak had to go physically to the school every day and pick up a bag of their homework, paper homework, take it home and try and work that homework, that daily work, by themselves with no access to teachers or educational tools. That's just part of it. No telehealth is available. No remote jobs are available where you don't have high-speed internet connectivity. So that whole area of Southwest Alaska, 55,000 square miles, is the second largest unserved area by broadband in America. And there are 56 tribes, not just ours, 56 tribes in that area that don't have any broadband at a nexus of historic opportunity, a rare time when we have a severe need, generational investment and funding, and emerging technology where they all intersect. It's a very rare time, and this is we're going to make hay while the sun is shining, to use an old phrase. If you're unserved or underserved, it means you don't have any access to the communication tools and information that the rest of America has. And the severe impact of that was a bright spotlight was put on that in COVID. The tribal communities had the highest rates in America of COVID infection and COVID deaths. And when we did a lot of research in my area where my tribe exists in Southwest Alaska, remote Southwest Alaska, we found that if you didn't have broadband in our area, you were twice as likely to get and die from COVID as any of the 22 areas in Alaska, census areas. Severe need exists in America for rural tribal communities. Historic funding. That's now generational funding with the Invest in America Act, the American Rescue Plan interjected last year, $1 billion for tribal broadband connectivity. And so there's an investment, historic funding levels for tribes, rural tribes, to get connected, to start closing that digital divide. Of course, you need both high quality, affordable, stable broadband and power to close the digital divide in Indian country. And then, of course, the emerging technology. That's the piece that really is putting hope and new opportunities for tribes in remote areas that are hundreds of miles away from any fiber or cable internet connectivity. So emerging technologies like low Earth orbit satellite, which is first coming online in Alaska last month, provides new opportunities for tribes to get broadband. And of course, for power, hey, solid state lithium ion technology has been made quantum leaps in the last 3 to 5 years. So power and broadband, providing those to remote tribal communities. So here's the time. Not unlike many rural tribes in America, those 56 tribes in Southwest Alaska are like little independent islands in that vast area, 50, larger than the state of New York. They aren't connected by roads. They aren't connected by power grids to each other or any other major source. And there's fiber, the closest fiber is hundreds of miles away. A shortened construction season, frozen tundra, delta, it's a nightmare. It's not practically feasible, nor is it economically feasible to put fiber optic lines to all of these remote villages anytime soon. We're talking 10, 20 years by the time finally gets out. So there is that crawl walk you're just talking about. Low Earth orbit satellite just came online in Alaska last month. Our Akiak Native community invested American Rescue Plan funds in a project that we in Akiak Technology completed for them, where we delivered the first broadband in Southwest Alaska to our tribe, 100% of our tribal citizens in Akiak. And we did this through low Earth orbit from OneWeb. They're the only ones that are available right now in Alaska. Starlink is available elsewhere, but not yet in Alaska. So that's the emerging priority window we applied for and got a license. So we are fixed wireless access to all homes and buildings in Akiak. It's not just one location, it's all locations in our tribal community. So there are solutions. The emerging technology is there. We in Akiak, unfortunately, are on the bleeding edge of it, but it's becoming more of an option for remote tribes. That emerging technology is driving access opportunities. The problem right now for many tribes is they don't have an Akiak technology. They don't have a trusted partner from industry, nor are they able to navigate through all the federal grant programs to find where the money is, how to get and write a good grant proposal, and get a trusted industry partner to help them solve this problem.
Radiomagnetic spectrum. It is the most critical infrastructure we have, and provisioning it, working with the FCC so that we can have broadband, right? Be it 25 up or 25.3, you still need to do a lot of that engineering, regardless of the physical infrastructure. Can you talk a little bit about the role that the FCC and NTIA, in your mind, through the Department of Commerce, is driving? Because I think they're a hidden in plain view, especially the NTIA entity that is not always affiliated with like the CIO Council, Chief Technology, coolness of AI and stuff, but they're helping manage how this communication will ultimately work. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure. The FCC has always had a prime role in telecommunications in America, obviously. And so in 2020, they came out with a rural tribal priority window where they offered for an educational broadband spectrum, 2.5 gigahertz. They offered that to tribal communities if they met certain criteria, license free. Which is great. But one of the criteria is you had to build out an infrastructure using that 2.5 gigahertz for your community to provide broadband connectivity at certain milestones, build out milestones. So very important for tribes. You get it license free, but you have some hooks in there that require you to build out broadband connectivity for your tribe. So that was a real kicker for us. We now had a vehicle to provide that fixed wireless asset. Important piece of the technical solution here. The second, of course, is low Earth orbit satellite. And the FCC is required to provide approval for the launch of low Earth orbit satellite constellations, right? Each of the satellites in the constellation. So our tribe actually supported Starlink's launch, wrote a letter to the FCC supporting Starlink's launch of their polar satellites. So there's more opportunity in Alaska. OneWeb is one, they're out first, but Starlink also has plans to provide a LEO service in Alaska. The more the better as far as provided broadband. We just turned it on last month to a consortium, a nonprofit consortium of 17 tribes in Southwest Alaska. That's that YKD Tribal Broadband Consortium you mentioned. And we're applied for the NTIA grant, Tribal Broadband Connectivity Grant, in September, to provide a crawl, walk, run solution that provides broadband in the near term using LEO, while we create an undersea fiber cable to landing stations along the coast in some of our villages along the coast, and then connect fiber broadband instead of trenching it across the frozen tundra. Use a point-to-point microwave ring of towers and broadcast fiber broadband to all of our villages and through our fixed wireless access to all of our homes within all these communities. That's transformative.
Forty and Duncan, the CIO of the Department of Energy, former CIO of the EPA, really stressed that program. And if you don't know what it is, it's tied to Executive Order 14008, which is tackling the climate crisis. A kind of a question before we hit it kick it to the parting shot. You know, ACIAC's one of many. You've mentioned, you know, there's entities like the FCC, the NTI. These other companies you have to work with, like, how do they come together? Like, how do you convene, you know, the carriers and the product owner? Is it hard? Is it easy when you're like, look, this is to serve a population that is underserved? How's that been, that journey?
It's been exciting but difficult, as you can imagine. It's creating the right team, just like in any as the folks that are watching this. If you're in industry, especially the GovCon industry, you know that creating the right team to meet the government need is the key to success. Same thing here. It's creating those companies that you can work with, the engineering companies, the infrastructure build companies, that are also passionate about what it is that you're doing, the mission that you're serving. And they are the ones that are highly capable of providing the solution in the environment that you're in our case, Southwest Alaska. It's a very unique environment. So we put together an outstanding team of contractors. We had 9 contractors working together for this NTIA Tribal Broadband Connectivity Grant to deliver this broadband solution and future fiber to our 17 tribes in our consortium. So it's all about the team, and tribal leadership is so key here. Our tribal leadership, starting with our chief, Mike Williams, is progressive. He calls himself the chief troublemaker because he wants to change. He wants progress. Being on the other side of the digital divide is a terrible place to be in today's America.
Justice 40, which is a program that addresses identifying the disadvantaged communities and benefits that are needed to underserved and unserved populations. So shout out to that program.
Tribes, we have figured out a solution. It's repeatable and extensible from ACIAC Native community to all of the 56 tribes in Southwest Alaska, and in fact, to any remote tribal community in America. Quite frankly, Southwest Alaska is one of the hardest places to do broadband. If you could do it there, your solutions can generally work for the rest of the tribal communities in America, remote tribal communities. So as we developed this solution and found the right approach to a village-based broadband connectivity model, that LEO, low Earth orbit satellite, and then we said, okay, how can we get the rest of these unserved tribes, get the same for the rest of the unserved tribes? And that's to create a consortium of tribes. We are stronger together. We are tribal communities, sovereign tribal communities who want to own our internet future. And so together, we applied for the NTIA grant. 17 tribes got together and say, let's do the same thing. We've got a plan, we've got the technology, we've got the implementers. Let's roll this out to more communities. And I think we're going to go larger than just the 17 tribes. It's along the Yukon River and the Kuskokwim River. So it's exciting time in Southwest Alaska because there's hope, finally.